Yeah, Ron just threw us a pretty awesome question. How can the internet be better leveraged to harness and scale local and global people power for effective activism? Um, what needs to be built? Well, yeah. Do you have an answer for that? I have an answer for that.
You give your answer, because I'm not a big part of the technological world. I have internet, and I do Facebook, and I do something, and I have a video camera, but
Yeah.
I'm still connected to my video camera or to my actual camera as opposed to the camera in my phone and so on. So take it away.
Yeah. Well, funny you should ask that, Yaron, because the software I built, the Hive1.net software and the Global Consensus Project, is all about basically that, figuring out how to use the internet to leverage people power, to find alternatives to corrupt hierarchy.
All right, so audio just cut out on the video, so I don't know if that's because the video doesn't have audio or what. I suppose we shall find out soon enough. All right, so audio just cut out on the video, so I don't know if that's because the video doesn't have audio or what. All right, so audio just cut out on the video, so I don't know if that's because the video doesn't have audio or what. All right, so audio just cut out on the video, so I don't know if that's because the video doesn't have audio.
Hierarchical systems. So, and we'll do on future episodes, we're going to do more sort of demos of how that works. I did start this thing, but I didn't actually share the link with anyone, so no one would know that they could jump in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link now that any of you could use to join this conversation in video, and I'm going to post that.
While he's doing that, I was pre-technology in my career and everything too. I remember when we first had data information systems, and when we first had computerized sign-in sheets for employees and for students and everything in the school, and we kept records of everything handwritten in addition, because we were not trusting this new technology. And when I would get printouts of the folder, the pages that were accordion type pages, get printouts of those every month about all the students and all the activities that were going on and what my budget was and all. And that to me was high technology. But I also had a job working in a credit bureau, which when I first graduated from college, there were no teaching jobs available. So I worked for a credit bureau, and I happened to be there at the time that the Fair Credit Reporting Act went into place, and several of the fair credit issues were raised. And I was formally trained at a national level about consumer rights and consumer protection. I had no idea that I'd ever use that, and yet it's come in so handy at some time later in my life. So I was pre-technology, and I'm now approaching 70, and I'm pretty comfortable with the technology I have, but because I've made that transition, I recognize how important it is to have the technology, but also it's important to have the the background of understanding what's behind the technology, what the sign-in sheets mean, what the statistics mean, instead of just putting them on a computer or something and coming up with the answer. What does it mean when I do this? What does it mean when I participate in that? So,
All
end of
right.
lecture.
Nice. Jeez, that was great. I can just step away and you'll talk
Sure.
to the audience. That is so great.
My daughter says put a nickel in me and I can do the whole dog and pony show.
So, well, since you're on Ask, and I started to explain it, I don't know, have you looked
No,
at any of this?
I
Okay. So, Barbara and I were extremely involved with the Occupy Port Townsend movement. That is actually how we met, and we could give a little bit of that history. When probably the first day I showed up at the little Occupy Port Townsend protest that was going on every Saturday at 2 to 4 or something. I imagine you were probably there.
Oh, yes.
You were often there. And do you remember what happened that day when we first met?
I'm not sure. Go ahead and remind me.
Okay, so I came up to the group and I said, I'm a facilitator and I'm aware of how the Occupy movement has been doing group facilitation. I've sort of been studying it. I could help us do a general assembly. And the group, we facilitated a little meeting right there and we decided to meet up and plan a general assembly. And I don't know if he's still here, if Alex is still in the audience, but you remember Alex, Brian?
Hi, Alex.
Yeah, he was there, and he helped us sort of come up with a plan for how to facilitate a general assembly. We came up with
That's right.
agreements for how we would do proposals, how we would do consensus. We probably had like 3 weeks of planning meetings.
Yes.
We brought a facilitator from Occupy Seattle came
Right.
over one night. I think
Yes.
Sean was his name, and he helped us plan it. And so then we had this massive General Assembly, Occupy General Assembly down at the UU Fellowship. And out of that General Assembly, Occupy working groups got created, and they started meeting. And I don't know, over the next year, Occupy Port Townsend was doing really interesting activist protests against money in politics, corporate power, foreclosures. And you and I were like meeting all the time
Right.
during the weeks, and these protests, the big Bank of America protests.
That was so fun.
That was amazing. I mean, when I edit this together, I'll put video. I'll show some of the video, and you'll see Barbara
Okay.
there. I think you were wearing your like
Statue of Liberty.
thing. You're dancing around. Yes.
And we shut down the drive-through of the Bank of America. That was really cool. And we had the parade through town carrying the tent.
All right, so there's been a couple comments. So I should explain the link that I put in there that you're saying is kind of useless. So the link is for joining this video conference. I should plug this in too, just in case we lose power.
I'm glad this is you and not me.
Yeah. Seems Facebook Live doesn't support links. There's no way to copy and paste that link. That's really interesting. So in any case, if anyone wants to join this talk, the link that I posted to the Zoom software would actually take you into the video conference. And we could actually have up to 50 people video conferencing and talking to us right now using this Zoom video conferencing link. It looks like Yaron's saying it's really hard to click the link, and I'm sorry about that. This is the 4th episode, so we'll get these kinks worked out. And then we'll just go with it if someone does drop in.
Sure.
But the reason I'm sort of like attempting to thread all of this together. So what I learned from the General Assembly process and the consensus process that we were experiencing in Occupy, that was what really taught me how to be in a group without hierarchy.
I agree.
Yeah. And it was like totally, it was like a revelation to me. We need to figure out how to do more of this, more non-hierarchical, non-power dynamic group decision-making. And we need to figure out how to do it on a mass scale.
Right.
And so that's what I've been working on. That's what the Global Consensus Project is literally, how do you get global consensus? How do you facilitate global consensus on issues? And the Hive One software is my first attempt as a facilitator to design software that could let us facilitate 1 million people.
Wow.
Using basically the same thing I did when I facilitated General Assemblies, or when we did that. So this podcast is really just a way of telling people about that software.
Sure, that's fine.
But you know, I mean, but I love it. Also, there's a benefit to talking about activism, because there's a lot of people say no when you ask them if they're an activist, and then I ask, well, do you care about what's going on in the world? Do you have any issues you want things to change? And most people say yes. There are some things they care about, and then I ask, do you do anything to try to impact those issues? And then sometimes they describe all this activist activities, but they don't like the label activist.
Well, I've come to some transitions in that too. I'm now officially an advocate as opposed to an activist in terms of how I introduce myself. I'm an advocate for affordable housing. I'm an advocate for special education students. I'm an advocate for people who are homeless.
Yeah.
And it's still the activism. It's a different form of activism. And I think with my age, I become less physically active and more active, I guess, in using the technology. For one, I've been writing an awful lot of letters to the city council and the planning commission and that kind of thing, which I wouldn't have been able to do previously. I'd have to go in and speak all the time.
Yeah.
But I've become more of an advocate, and I think that's my role at this time, because I have the experience of all these years, and being able to pull that together a little bit. I'm not able to go out and physically march as much as I'd like to, or attend all the committee meetings or anything else. I'm just physically not as able to do that. But I am able to sit at my computer and send notes to other people and say, get involved, and Tuesday night we're doing this, and so on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's always something you can do. You know, there's always options.
Right. Well, when you mentioned that we were going to be talking today and you invited me, I started getting all kinds of ideas in my head. And what I came up with is the power of activism. And it's not necessarily how you do it, but that you are involved. For example, the power of the individual voice. My dad going to that grocery store and picketing all by himself. And the grocery store then started closing on the nights that everybody agreed to, and stayed open on the nights that everybody agreed to. One lone voice did that. Or the power of music. In the civil rights movement, music was such an important part of what we were doing, and we sang our way through the events of the civil rights movement. Or the power of speaking up. When I was a young adult,